Ariel Helwani in Los Angeles for UFC 184 alongside Alan Jouban, who meets Richard Walsh this Saturday night live on pay-per-view. Alan, it's good to talk to you for the first time. We're here in your backyard. This is a pretty cool experience, right? After having to fight in Brazil to fight here in Southern California.
That's exactly it, man. I mean, Brazil was a dream of mine to go and fight there, but I'm happy to be back in LA and fighting at the Staples Center on pay-per-view. It couldn't get any better.
How long did it take for you to get over that experience? Because a lot of people thought you were robbed. You know, you go all the way there, such a long trip, and a victory is taken away from you in many people's eyes. How long did it take for you to get over that?
Honestly, it wasn't that bad. It didn't take long. The flight home was miserable. It was a long flight. Had some bumps and bruises, and my ego was a bit hurt and everything. But getting home, reading some of what the media had to say and some of my peers, it really kind of motivated me. You know, a lot of my peers went out on Twitter and spoke out and said that they feel that I got robbed, that I won that fight. A lot of media, I think 11 out of 12 media, said they had me win in that fight, that I got robbed. So when you know that you have the respect of your peers and the media, it kind of changes your perspective on things. It didn't hurt so bad. Obviously, it financially hurt me, and it hurt me in the rankings. I wanted to build the ladder. But that helped out a lot. So after that, it was more just kind of like, I sat down with my manager and my coaches, and they said, just put it behind you. It's build forward. All we need to do is get another win in the next fight, and we're going to be right back on the same track. And I feel like that's what this fight will do. I feel like a win over Richard Walsh on Saturday night will put me right back in the same momentum that I had going.
Does it change the way you fight? Because now you're kind of afraid to go to the judges. Does it change your mentality at all?
Somewhat. I think I'm going to stay a smart fighter in the octagon. I'm not going to put myself in danger just to not go to the judges, but I definitely don't plan on going to the judges in this fight 100%. I plan on finishing this fight, absolutely. What
do you make of Richard? What do you know of this guy? Because he's not a very well-known fighter. He's on Tough Nations, but not the most famous fighter in the UFC.
Exactly. The fights that I've seen of him, man, he's a tough guy. He's a strong guy. I think he's kind of a gritty guy. He's got heart, and he'll grind it out, and he's got good cardio. The difference I see in us, though, is that I feel like obviously my striking's a bit better, but he grits it out, and he's real strong in the beginning, and then he stays grinding to the end of the fight. But he kind of goes down as far as explosiveness and his danger, how dangerous he is. Where me, I grit it out as well, but I feel like I'm more dangerous as the fight goes. And I think that's the difference in us. If this fight does find itself in the later rounds, I feel like I'm almost at my most dangerous in the later rounds because I feel like I almost have nothing to lose. I go for it, where I don't think he'll be as explosive as me towards the end of the fight.
Of course, anytime anyone ever speaks about you, they talk about your modeling career.
Yeah.
Are you still an active model?
I do it I do a little bit now and then. Obviously, it's not something that pays the bills anymore now that I'm in the UFC, but it's something I'm pursuing. My management hooked up with a company called Soul Artist Management. It's a modeling company out of New York, and they represent a lot of supermodels out there, guys like Tyson Beckford and names like that. So now that we are signed with them, they have a lot of things in the works. So I'm excited to see. Obviously it's like win your fights and do what you have to do, and then everything else will take care of itself. Outside of the cage. So they have a lot of stuff in the works right now that I'm excited to see what happens in the near future.
You get punched in the face for a living, so I'm wondering what those agents think about your job, because you have a fighter management team, and then you also have a model management team.
Exactly.
I would imagine the model management team isn't a fan of you fighting. Am I wrong?
Most of them aren't. You're not wrong at all. Some of them get it, some of them like it. I don't try to convince people anymore, you know what I mean? I've been doing it for years and trying to balance the two, and people think I'm crazy the majority of the time. Some of the guys are fights fans, but it's two different perspectives. I don't try to convince, my mother to come to the fight. She would never do it. And I'm not going to try to convince an agent who has never seen a fight in her life to come watch somebody try to punch me in the face. Sure. So it's two different worlds, you know what I mean? But I've been fortunate enough to make them both work for this long.
What do you prefer doing more?
Fighting, absolutely. I feel like fighting is something that's been inside of me my whole life, and I was kind of lost until I found it. And once I found fighting, it's like I have a straight path of where I want to be now.
Will your mom even watch on TV?
She'll watch the highlight if I win.
After the fact.
Exactly, after the fact.
What is she doing, like, let's say it's 9 o'clock. She knows you're about to be in the cage or are in the cage. Or what is she doing at home? She must be kind of going nuts, right?
Yeah, she's not watching. She's watching Twitter. And for this fight, I'm from Louisiana. She flew up to Cali, and she'll be babysitting my son while I fight.
Oh,
so, yeah,
nice.
She'll be doing that.
Would you be okay with your son fighting?
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I'm not going to push him to be a fighter. But it's going to be in his blood. He's going to know how to fight. It's just I mean, he watches Rambo and The Walking Dead all day. It's like it's inevitable.
Yeah.
So he'll
In
know
his DNA.
It's in his DNA. Dad comes home, he sees me on TV. So it's gonna be in his DNA. He's gonna know how to fight, but I'm not gonna push it on him. Whatever he wants to do, I'll support him.
The ultimate in this sport is the UFC title. For you, what's the ultimate in the modeling world? Is it like the cover of GQ? What's like the goal?
That's an interesting question. Huh. You know, growing up, I thought Men's Health was like the one to get, but that'd still be fun to do. But yeah, you know, like hey, cover GQ or you know how. That's about the money in the business world. You know, you get a huge fragrance campaign, and these guys like David Beckham and these guys, you know, they're doing very well off of big campaigns like that. And so that's where we kind of want to take the sport, you know, with the partnership with Soul Agency in New York. You know, they want to take fighters and make them, you know, universally global names, not just sponsored fighters here in the U.S.
Are you still with Black House?
I am. Things are going great at Black House.
It's a weird time for Black House because the face of Black House, Anderson Silva, is going through some tough times, and some people have suggested, like Luke Rockhold, who's fighting Lyoto Machida next, said there's a black cloud hanging over that camp because a few guys have tested positive. What's your take on that? Is that unfair to say?
I disagree, but it's because I'm from Black House. I don't think it's unfair. You know, if I was looking at another camp from the outside and a couple of guys got popped, you know, I'd probably be saying the same thing, especially since he's fighting Lyoto Machida, who trains at Black House. What else is he supposed to say? But, you know, I've said this a couple of times, and I think most people in the industry know it, that, you know, we're close to our coaches, and we text a lot back and forth, and we train twice a day, but they don't come home with me and monitor what I eat, and they don't know what I put in my body, and they're not here telling me go to bed on time. We're adults, we're professional athletes, and we make our own individual choices, and that's what's happening. You know, people sometimes just they get steered on the wrong path, or they make you know, a bad decision, and it doesn't mean that everybody's doing the same thing, or doesn't mean that it's coming from a higher authority. It just means that some people happen to make a bad decision, and they're going to pay the consequences. But no, Black House has been great, to answer your question, and everything's good over there.
What was your reaction, though, when you heard about Anderson?
It was unfortunate. He's been a hero of mine my entire life. I still don't even know all the details in it, so I can't really speak much on it. But my initial reaction, I was heartbroken. He's a guy that I really looked up to my whole career.
Well, best of luck to you. Good to meet you for the first time. Looking forward to the fight.
Thanks, Sarah.